Alright, Star Wars fans and YouTubers, I'm back with another review. As a lot of you may know, one of the main things I like to do with my Star Wars collection is I like to army build, especially for the Empire. And that's also one of my biggest criticisms of the vintage collection, is they hinder collectors like me from getting multiple figures that you want. They have this one per case issue. They send an entire wave out. They may only have one figure that's a good army builder. That's why my next review is very special. It's VC94, the Imperial Navy Commander, and bam! I've got actually 6 of these guys. I was able to find 4. I can't find the other one. Plus I've got one open. How I came across these guys is very interesting. At first, I knew it was going to be the typical thing. They weren't going to show up in the stores for several months, so I ordered one from eBay for around 20. That's too much for me to pay for a figure. I thought, well, I'm going to get one of them. I'm going to splurge. I next talked to VC94, and he's very generous. He was able to send me one for my birthday, even though it was late. It's very appreciated. He didn't have to do that. I know he doesn't do reviews himself, but he does run a Star Wars channel on YouTube. Please check him out. And thank you, Boshek. I really do appreciate that. Then another collector showed me a place where I could buy multiple guys. Someone must have gotten a bunch of cases or something because they had over 20 for sale. I was also able to get 4 of these guys from the UK. This is the UK cardback, very similar to the American. The only thing is they don't have the Kenner style on the back where they show other figures and vehicles. They've got this instead. I think there's also a European and Canadian cardback with multiple different writings on it, French and German and Italian and such. But this is the British cardback. This figure is quite interesting. If you go back in the archives, or if some of you may remember, Kenner started this figure, and it was actually with a gray uniform. They called him different things. At first they called him the Death Squad Commander. That was the first release in the late 1970s. A lot of people thought this was too menacing for a kid's toy. They dumbed it down a bit. The next time they released him, it was called the Star Destroyer Commander, a bit less menacing name. When Hasbro bought out Kenner in the Power of the Force 2 line, they renamed this guy the Death Star Trooper. And they released him in Power of the Force 2. I believe they re-released that figure again. And then they updated him for the 30th anniversary. They then called him the Death Star Trooper again. But they decided to change it with the vintage collection. He's now the Imperial Navy Commander. So you got all that. They've changed the name of this guy 4 times. I've actually got the 30th anniversary one right here. And I'm going to compare him to the current one. Here they are. This has also been called an apology figure because the 30th anniversary one was kind of tall and dangly, and he was articulate, but he really didn't stand that well. His tunic kind of prevents him from standing. He just kind of stands awkward. He's just kind of an awkward figure. I know the original guy from the movie they based him on is kind of a tall guy, but I think this is overall a better figure because if you want an army build, you don't want one figure significantly taller than all the rest. Believe me, when I was in the Navy, my last few months in the Navy, we had a new ensign. He was 6'11". He was a basketball player with the Navy basketball team, and trust me, when they lined up with everyone else, he just kind of looked out of place. This figure kind of looks the same way, especially multiple ones. So I'm glad they made this apology figure. This one's also more articulate. I'll give you a good 360 of this guy. A lot of you may remember or have read the original Kenner Death Star Commander and Star Destroyer Commander, or excuse me, Death Squad Commander and Star Destroyer Commander were both in gray. This one is in black. They've been doing black since Power of the Force 2. They've been talking about making a gray one just to kind of commemorate the original Kenner line, but I've seen no evidence of that yet. They've been talking about it actually since the vintage collection started. They were going to just repaint this guy, but they never got around to it. Anyway, this is a very good figure. Let me take his helmet off. The helmet is less bulky. I remember, it was actually kind of funny if you watch the movies. These guys just have huge helmets. I think it would have been funny in Spaceballs if they would have not only Rick Moranis, but all the other Imperials and Spaceballs would have just had huge helmets. I know he did, but just to kind of commemorate the Death Star Trooper. It looks very 70s, I'll say that. This guy had different jobs in episodes 4 and 6. In episode 4, he basically does the job of a stormtrooper. He just has a different uniform on. In episode 6, he does more technical jobs. Like I think they're running like the hangar bay to let the shuttles in. They're running computer terminals at the Death Star shield generator. So they kind of keep the same uniform, but change the jobs in between episodes 4 and 6. But I really like this guy. I'm very lucky to have 6 of him. I know he's hard to get. And, you know, I want to thank Boshek and everyone else who's helped me out getting this guy. Everyone out there knows I'm an army builder. So when I was told someone had multiple ones of these guys they wanted to sell, I just had to jump on that. He's got a new type of gun. They just listed as Imperial Blaster. I'll show you the gun right here. I know traditionally most Imperials have had the E11, but they've changed on that. He's got a working holster. And as I've showed you, his helmet is removable. His helmet is actually pretty movie accurate, I must say. Movie accurate overall. And I will read his articulation off to you. Got it back here on the bed, excuse me. Alright, for the Imperial Navy Officer, he has, let's see, a ball-jointed neck. He has ball-hinged shoulders, ball-hinged elbows, swivel wrists, swivel waist, ball-hinged knees and ankles. So, he's a pretty articulate figure. I really like him overall, and I am going to open a couple more of these guys. I do have a couple unpunched I want to keep. Definitely, I think this guy's going to go up in value. So if you can get a good card back, I would definitely keep him. I'm not encouraging you to scout, but you probably can resell him for a higher price. I'm going to give him probably a 9.25 overall. My only issue is very small, is the head goes back and forth quite a bit. It looks like he's head bobbing here. The back of the neck, but everything else, you know, is perfect on him. I hope they do with this guy what they did with the Imperial Navy Officer in the Power of the Jedi range in the 30th anniversary. I hope they make multiple head sculpts so you can truly army build. Not only this guy, but also the ATST driver. I've been campaigning for them to do that, as well as the Imperial scanning crew. I hope they do that with all these figures and make army builders like me very happy. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this review as much as I enjoyed showing it to you. This is Supreme signing out, and as always, thank you for tuning in.